or request the committee secretary to acknowledge resource persons for today.
Good morning. Let me acknowledge the presence of our guests and resource persons for today's public hearing. From the Department of Energy, Mr. Antonio Barcelona. From the Energy Regulatory Commission, Attorney Agnes de Vanadera, Attorney Maria Corazon Hines, Attorney Krisha Marie Barbuela. From the National Power Corporation, Attorney Melchor Dulme. From the National Electrification Administration, Attorney Rosan Rosero Lee. From the Power Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Corporation, Ms. Irene Joy Besido, the President. From the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation, Attorney Oscar Ala, with Mr. Clares Lauren Halocon. From the National Transmission Corporation, Ms. Dina Dizon, with Ms. Eva Elizabeth Malilay. From the Independent Electricity Market Operator, IMOP, Engineer Isidro Cacho Jr. and Engineer Andrea May Caguete. From the Philippine Rural Electric Cooperatives Association, PhilReca, Attorney Goldelio Rivera. From the National Association of General Managers of Electric Cooperatives, NAGMEC, Mr. Alan Laniba. From the Developers Renewable Energy for Advancement, DREAM, Attorney J. Layug. From the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, Attorney Ronald Dilan Concepcion. From the Philippine Independent Power Producers Association, Attorney Ann Estorco Montelibano, with Ms. Cherry Javier. From the Management Association of the Philippines, Mr. Ernesto Pandanco.
Parang bata, no?
From the Power Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Corporation, Mr. Manuel Villalon.
Irene.
And from the National Center of Electric Cooperative Consumers, INSECO, Mr. Wilfred Evangelista. Everyone has been acknowledged, sir.
Thank you, ComSec. And let me personally acknowledge presence of Senator Amy Marcos and also the chairperson of the Energy Regulatory Commission. So once again, good morning to everyone. And we have a very simple bill at hand. This is the removal of the expiration date for the Joint Congressional Energy Commission, which was formerly known as Joint Congressional Power Commission. And I always believe that one of the best legacies that we can leave behind is to strengthen our institutions. And us, being public servants, we also have expiry dates. In fact, we will not be staying here for a very long time, because we're elected officials. And probably with the other resource persons here also, at one point in time, we will be retiring or moving on or moving to another career. So in other words, while we're here in our position right now, the best legacy is to strengthen our institutions. And one of the best ways or best principles to strengthen our institution is to make sure that the principle of check and balance is functioning, not only today, but in the future also. So today, we'll be discussing a bill that will remove the expiration date of the Joint Congressional Energy Commission. Just to give you a brief history, just to give everyone a brief history so that everyone will be on the same page. When EPIRA was enacted in 2008, with that bill, 2001, with that bill comes with the creation of a Joint Congressional Power Commission. And the primary responsibility of the JCPC at that time was to oversee the implementation of the EPIRA. I'm sure Attorney Goldie and Ernie remembers this dahil high school pa sila dun that time, So
Chairman.
but I am sure a lot of our resource persons remember this revolutionary bill that basically revolutionized our power sector. And in order to make sure that IPIRA is being implemented properly and to its fullest benefits, the JCPC was enacted. But in 2009, when the RE Act was enacted, it underwent a transformation. No? The authors of the RE Act included the RE Act as part of the JCPC's mandate. So, in other words, the JCPC expanded its mandate not only to provide oversight on the IPIRA, but also provide oversight on the implementation of the RE Act, thereby expanding its jurisdiction from purely on the power sector to the energy sector, because renewable energy is energy. You know? So with that motive, um, uh, in 2018, when we enacted several laws, we followed that direction of including other legislative measures, uh, other legislative measures to belong to the oversight function of the JCPC. But we also renamed it during that time because a lot of the succeeding pieces of legislation were not limited to power but also to the other facets of the energy sector. So in 2000 and when did we rename it? 2019, we renamed the JCPC to JCEC to cover the other facets of the energy sector. So just to uh, show everyone the laws that now include under the jurisdiction of the JCEC, other than IPIRA and other than the RE Act, we now have the Electric Cooperatives Emergency and Resiliency Fund Act. We also included Energy Virtual One-Stop Shop Act. We also included the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act. We also included the Anti-Obstruction in Power Lines Act and the Maria Corriente Act. So all of these laws are now part of the jurisdiction of the JCEC. So in fact, if you look at the other laws, it's not limited to power, no, but also to energy, such as the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act. And by tradition here in Congress, and I think Senator Amy can share his or her thoughts on this. By practice, each law will have its own uh, oversight mechanism, whether it's joint or whether it's separate, but it will have its own oversight mechanism. But in energy, and this happened during the Renewable Energy Act enactment, um, in energy, the school of thought here is to consolidate the oversight into one body, thereby developing the knowledge base of the members of the JCEC and improve the institutional knowledge of its members. So in the Energy Committee, this representation, as well as the past authors of the several laws, had this view of consolidating all the laws into one oversight committee. So that's why moving forward, we will do so. All the laws that will be enacting will be assigning the JCEC as the de facto oversight body that will make sure that these laws are being implemented. But I have to emphasize, it will not relinquish its function to provide oversight on its original mandate, which is IPIRA. No? And later on, we will discuss other unimplemented items under IPIRA. And this is very important because we have to take note and we have to put emphasis on JCEC's original mandate, which is to provide oversight on the implementation of IPIRA. So again, what better way of leaving a legacy by strengthening our institution And one of the best ways to strengthen our institutions is to strengthen the check and balance mechanisms. After all, after we leave this position, the succeeding chairman of the Energy Committee or the succeeding ERC chairperson or the other stakeholders will find a lot of refuge in that oversight mechanism. I think it's just right and proper to make sure that these institutions are well in place now, so that the next leaders will benefit and will find refuge in those institutions. So with that, let me ask Senator Aimee if she has any opening statements regarding this matter.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I have no opening statement except to remind everyone how old I am. That in fact, I was around when I was a congressman when the EPIRA was passed, and we look with favor and support entirely Senator Gatchalian's effort to remove the expiration, given that it's been extended in the past, it's been renamed in the past, and as you rightly mentioned, there are 7 laws implemented by it, whose provisions for the EPIRA, for example, are not yet fully implemented. So I'm curious, and we take this opportunity to be updated on the failure to roll out retail competition and open access, allowing consumers to contract for their requirements, as well as the establishment of wholesale electricity spot markets. Of course, WESM is the most controversial of these. In addition, there are several provisions that we're aware of in RA 9513, not yet fully implemented, including the renewable portfolio standards. So we manifest our full support for the chairman in removing the expiry dates, and would like to exploit the presence of so many of our resource persons to enlighten us on these questions. Thank you.
Since you opened up the unimplemented items in EPIRA, we'll start off with that, Senator Aimee. And just to share with the body some of the statistics on EPIRA. No? And we lifted this up from the report of the DOE. Under EPIRA, the DOE is mandated to report to the JCEC its implementation of EPIRA. So in fairness, for the last 30 years, on the average, EPIRA has been implemented to about 90% of its items inside, more or less. Just focus on the items in section row. These are there are 9 items that are not yet implemented, and those items were actually the ones mentioned by Senator Aimee. We want to focus on that because those 9 items are, from our analysis and from the reports of DOE, are the unimplemented items. And some of those items are very important, because it's related to competition. But in fairness, focusing on that row, items in sections, 95% or 175 items out of the 184 were in fact implemented already. So just to share with you some graphs. So these are the unimplemented by section, because we divided it by section. But this is the most important graph. So 9 items out of the 184 items were not implemented yet. So we'll focus on this, and we will start off, or we will kick off with DOE, because they are the agency mandated to report to this committee and also to the commission on the implementation of EPIRA and their views on removing the expiration date. We won't go into the details of the unimplemented items, because a lot of them are, we need a whole session to do that, but they can just give us an overview of those unimplemented, the status, and the rationale if they think that the JCEC is a worthwhile body to be extended in order to make sure that these implemented items can be implemented in the near future. So we call on DOE.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead po.
Good morning. This is
Asek.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I am in quarantine. I was found out for the fourth time.
Asek, we cannot hear you. You're on mute. Asek Jerpy?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead po.
Okay na po. Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Good morning po. I am just out of the office again. I am in quarantine. I was found to be positive this week again for the first time. But you know, your office po asked for several.
Asek, we cannot hear you. Your signal is on and off. Asek Jerpy. Asek Jerpy, we cannot hear you.
Hello, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, your signal is on and off. But now we can hear you.
Okay na po ngayon. I'll just
Yes.
turn off the video po. Okay, thank you po. So, Mr. Chair, we have submitted the details of the report. I am not just ready to discuss it one by one. I just thought the hearing today is on the issue of whether or not we're going to extend the JAC monitoring work of the Senate and Congress. So nonetheless, Mr. Chair, we'll get back to you and give the details in a while. I'll just get the papers. I'll have it sent to me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
But ASEC, since DOE is a very important agency that the JCEC will conduct its oversight on, I want to get your position, the position of the agency on this principle of removing the expiration date.
Mr.
Of
Chair.
course, the oversight committee is conducting oversight over these agencies. Some of you might not like it. Some of you might like it, but that's the principle of check and balance. And
Yes,
like I said, no, it should transcend beyond our personal preference because that's how institutions work. So I just want to get your opinion and your position on this removal of expiration date.
Well, Mr. Chair, the Congress knows better, Mr. Chair. When these laws were passed, Congress fully established the objectives, how to attain this. Congress has its timeline, Mr. Chair. And on our part, we implement, we work on it. And whether or not we're going to lift this monitoring power, it's up to Congress, Mr. Chair. You know better than us on that, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ASEC. Do you have any statistics on hand on how many officially, no? Because the ones I showed earlier are our analysis. But what do you think are the items that are unimplemented in IPIRA yet? And what items do you think that are very important that we should provide oversight on?
Mr. Chair, I mentioned earlier that I'm in quarantine right now. I don't have the materials, but in mind I have some ideas on this. But since we have prepared some reports on this, can I just formalize and give our and consolidate all the reports, Mr. Chair, to specifically address what the Honorable Chair asks now, Mr. Chair? If it's not too late, Mr. Chair. Otherwise, I'll just ask for time to look into the reports. Then we'll go back later to discuss it one by one.
Sige, ASEC, well, to be honest, I have that here, no? I just wanted to hear it from the DOE, but we compiled our own list. But I'll discuss that later on. So the position of the DOE is to leave it to the wisdom of Congress
Yes.
on whether to remove the expiration date or not.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
ASEC, nahalata ko yan ang paborito mong posisyon eh. No?
Opo. Kasi, Mr. Chair, alam naman namin na ang role namin, we're on the implementation side, and when it comes to legislation and the rationale behind it, kayo po naman ang nakakalam talaga niyan. So we won't argue with that, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for trusting our wisdom. No, I don't know kung that's good or bad, no, but thank you for that. Senator Amy, any questions to DOE before we move to ERC?
Not really. I was just going to push a little bit, ASEC. Certainly the DOE has a position on this. Makakatulong ba kapag in-extend? Siyempre naman, di ba? I think we need to get some kind of position on record regardless of the DOE.
When Apo? Yes, Ma'am Senator.
So yes, meaning we should remove the expiration date.
As I've said, Madam.
Yes, I heard that earlier. Pero just by way of record, yung DOE poses no opposition to the removal of the expiration period recommended by my chairman.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, ASEC. Later on, I'll have a rundown on those unimplemented items, and I can see a lot of our resource persons here are members of the energy sector. So it's good also to hear their voices, because obviously one of the most important output of this oversight is to make sure that our energy participants are getting the maximum benefit, or if not, what are the laws that are not giving them that maximum benefit yet. No? So the oversight also provides not only relief but also benefit to our private stakeholders. So we'll listen to them later on. So we call on now ERC, represented by Chair Devanadera.
Good morning, Senator Win. Good morning, Senator Amy. On those that have not been fully implemented under the IPIRA, on the ARCOA, Your Honor, we have actually ERC actually has started to go down in terms of levels, so that for our phase 1 we had 1 megawatts and above, and that was made effective June 26, 2013. And then we went down to 750 through a resolution issued in 2016. However, the lowering of the threshold was actually we were hampered for the continuous implementation because of a TRO issued by the Supreme Court. And right now, we have already the 500 kilowatt as our phase 3, and that is included in our resolution in 2020. This has been made effective on January 5, 2021. And we went on commercial operations on February 26, 2021. So that's about ARCOA. And even on this point alone, Senator Win, Senator Amy, we found the role of JCEC very, very significant, because when we were looking for directions as to how to proceed because of the TRO issued by the Supreme Court, we found some direction and a forum in JCEC. And that's the reason why we are grateful that JCEC is there. And of course, needless to say, it should continue as this kind of body. There are other major, we think, major things that should be implemented. This is the Western Mindanao, but we also have some kind of issues, legal issues that are being discussed. And but again, we are getting directions from JCEC. Also, there are some other important subject matter, like for example, the NPC privatization of Agus Pulangi, which we find a forum in JCEC to discuss, in as much as the plea of the stakeholders in Mindanao is to defer the privatization in view of the very low rate that is being given to our consumers in Mindanao. So these are just some of those things that we, in our experience, JCEC has provided both the forum and the direction. We also had occasions to, especially if agencies are not able to agree. For example, issues like CSP, issues like outages, all these things, we found a forum where we could discuss. And I think one of the things that we can credit the JCEC is to bring together the agencies and the stakeholders who otherwise will have no forum to thresh out matters. And this we see that we are avoiding unnecessary cases filed in court. So it's for ERC, JCEC really is a very, very important institution through which the stakeholders and the different agencies can come together and discuss. We may not totally agree with one another, but at least we agree to agree and we agree to disagree. So, and maybe the disagreements, these are the things that can be addressed through legislation. Now, we also see the wisdom of having JCEC continue because the like ERC, DOE, we continue to submit reports, and these reports contain valuable information upon which legislation can be crafted. So, Your Honor, in short, ERC is very supportive of the lifting of the period for expiration for JCEC, and in fact, maybe we should look into giving JCEC broader fields of what to look into and additional responsibilities. Thank you very much, Mr. Senator, Madam Senator.
Thank you, Chair Agnes, and I would like to commend the ERC through the leadership of Chair Agnes for respecting and upholding, the recommendations of the JCEC. The most recent will be the issue of bill shock, wherein we during the pandemic there were a lot of complaints as to how some utilities were charging and disclosing the computation of their bills. And we had a hearing that time. This representation and the former chairman in the House, now the Speaker of the House, Speaker Lord, And the action there was to the outcome actually is a penalty imposed on some of the utilities by the regulator. So I think those are just one of the examples how the JCEC exercised its oversight and how the regulator upheld the recommendation of the Oversight Commission. So we commend the ERC for that principle of upholding and respecting the recommendations of the Commission. So thank you very much, Chair Agnes. Senator Aimee, any questions to ERC?
No, but I would like to join the chairman in commending the ERC for their very proactive stance during this entire pandemic. Thank you for that. And certainly, while there are many things to complain about, it hasn't been about ERC. I'm also enlightened by the quite expanded role of the JCEC as referred to by our good chair, Agnes de Venadera, that perhaps by way of institutionalization, this shouldn't be a mere oversight commission. Perhaps it's something that we should study, that there should in fact be a commission that is in place permanently, not merely exercising oversight, but as Julie observed, bringing all the stakeholders together, providing a forum, and also direction for the future of the entire industry. Maybe it's something we ought to think about because it's a very, very valuable contribution. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Aimee, for that very important comment. We now move to the other agencies. PSAM, Attorney Irene is here, and we all know that one of the biggest endeavors of IPIRA is the privatization portion. Not only the breakup into the 4 sections of the power sector, but also extinguishing the liabilities incurred by government through asset sales. So, and PSAM was directed to conduct that privatization and the eventual payment to the loans incurred during the past setup. So with that, I would like to call on Attorney Irene Garcia to give us just an overview, Attorney Irene, on what is still unimplemented or being implemented, and then your recommendation on whether to remove the expiry date or not.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Senator Aimee, as well as to our colleagues in the energy sector. Thank you for this opportunity to express our views on this particular topic. PSAM fully supports this initiative to extend the life of JCEC by removing the expiration date. We confirm the importance of JCEC's role in the energy sector. As a matter of fact, it was mentioned earlier that with respect to IPIRA, yes, PSAM's role is to privatize the assets that were turned over to us by National Power Corporation. As of this date, 74% of the power assets have already been privatized, and there remains to be 26% that we have not privatized. This includes the Kaseknan, CBK, and Mindanao Coal IPPs, and also, as mentioned by Chair Agnes earlier, there is still that Agus Polangi complex, which we need to think about. Also, it is important to mention that while there was a landmark legislation that was passed in the form of the Murang Kuryente Act 2 years ago, there needs to be close monitoring of the compliance of the Murang Kuryente Act, including the allocation of the 208 billion that was set aside for payment of stranded contract costs and stranded debts. As we reported at the last budget hearing, only 8 billion has been allocated in that amount of 208 billion. So we really have to work together to implement this particular legislation to make sure that the stranded contract costs and stranded debts are really addressed. Mr. Chair, with respect to the financial obligations at the start of PISAM's life, the total amount was 1.24 trillion. As of this date, that amount has now been substantially reduced. It is at 361.9 billion. While we have substantially reduced the financial obligations, there are still amounts that need to be settled in the coming years. So in terms of the relevance of having JCEC there as our partner in making sure that there is implementation of the EPIRA objectives, we fully agree that it's important that we keep JCEC.
Thank you, Attorney Irene. And on top of that, looking at the records, PSAM also is one of the country's biggest landlord. No, understand that you have approximately 29 million square meters of property that is still in government's hands. No, whether 100 ba? 100 million square meters in land, no? Whether it's being leased out or it's just idle, but definitely those are the items that PSAM need to liquidate in the next few years. The liquidation proceeds will help reduce the 361 billion left behind in terms of stranded costs and stranded debts. Would you like to confirm that, Attorney Irene, and shed light on the properties? Because I saw in the records that the properties are quite substantial.
Mr. Chair, a bulk of the properties you mentioned are actually the underlying land of the power plants. So some of this, most of these lands are actually covered by a land lease agreement that is intertwined with the corresponding IPPs or IPPAs, as the case may be. So there are though some land that we need to still dispose of. That includes the land in the Agus and Pulangi. So in terms of actually timing the privatization of the real property assets, it's imperative that the timing is that it is together with the power assets.
Correct. And since you opened Agus Pulangi and Chairman De Manadero opened it earlier, that's the crown jewel of PSAM right now, no? One of probably the biggest hydropower plant in the country. So having said that, in EPIRA, Congress should be consulted before before any decision to dispose it or not. No, so in other words, that consultative process can come in the form of this oversight committee. No, because the oversight committee obviously it's a bicameral system. Both houses are represented, and soliciting the sentiments of the legislators in both houses is important to give some signal to PSAM on whether to dispose it or not. No, so that's also I just want to highlight that because in the law it's very clear that Congress should be consulted. And can you confirm that, Attorney Irene?
Mr. Chair, I confirm that indeed JCEC has that role of participating in the decision making with respect to the privatization of the Agus and Pulangi complex. In fact, Mr. Chair, as you know, there has been no decision to privatize it because the focus now is to try to get funding for rehabilitating it. The Agus Pulangi plants are quite old already, and we know that it is really helping the people in Mindanao in the sense that it is able to lower down the cost of electricity. And it is very important that we keep it in good condition. So there is already an instruction from the Department of Finance to source the funding necessary for rehabilitating it. There is an ongoing financial feasibility study to ascertain how much money we would need to do that project.
Well, now, Attorney Irene, I won't go into the detail, no, but I just want to state and for everyone to also appreciate that it is now more complex, no, with the enactment of the BARM law. The BARM government will have some say through a right of first refusal on the sale of Agus Pulangi, and the determination of the value of that will become complex because you have to consult with them and also try to satisfy their requirements. So in other words, the delay made it a little bit more complex in that sense because there's now another entity that we need to consult with. No? So I just want to put emphasis on that. No? Senator Aimee, any questions to PSAM?
Not really. It's the burning issue of the Agus Pulangi talaga eh. Kung anong gagawin dyan. At maybe you can provide us some direction, even if it's just a one-page briefer. What are the different alternatives? Is there something we can think about?
Yes,
Yes.
Attorney Irene, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we indeed can submit to the Senate a briefer on what are the options we are looking at. So you can also give your inputs and advise us on what you think would be best. But at the moment, the direction is really to rehabilitate it, to make sure that it is in good condition, despite the fact that we have not been really discussing any form of privatization for it. What is important is that we keep it running.
That's right, but even that costs a great deal, and
Definitely.
you're hard put to find the funds to address all the issues for a very old plant.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. It's going to be a challenge, but if we're able to bring the cost down and maintain it in reasonable levels, with very definite instructions and targets as to what is the achievable effect of that rehabilitation, then I think so long as we are able to do the study beforehand, then the implementation would be much easier. The only challenge, if I may, Mr. Chair, I would like to mention that while this renovation is really going to be a long-term process, PISAM's life is only up to June 2026. So that's also one of the things that we are looking at, and we would need JCEC's assistance in that regard, because as I mentioned earlier, there are still things to be done, but there is that looming end of the corporate life of PISAM.
Yes, but Mr. Chair and Attorney Garcia, I've heard you on several other occasions, and the problem remains. We can't just keep extending, ano, at saka medyo dapat pag-isipan na natin kung sulit pa rin itong ginagastos na labis-labis at kausapin na rin lahat ng mga stakeholders kung ano maaring gawin kasi na-spoiled na tayo sa napakababang singil dyan sa Agus Pulangi. So maybe a more holistic approach involving other stakeholders and new technologies in order, because we can't simply keep extending beyond 2026 and plowing in hard fought funds into what may be too old to maintain after all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Aimee. Thank you, Attorney Garcia. We call on PEMC, Attorney Ala, and just to inform everyone, Attorney Ala is a stalwart of the defunct GCPC. He was once the executive director of JCPC, no? Pero hindi pa ho siya ganun katanda, no? Bata pa yan, no? But so I would like to call on Attorney Ala of PEMC, considering that one of the unimplemented items of the IPIRA is the wholesale market in Mindanao, no, which is still in its implementation stage. So we call on Attorney Ala, and Attorney, you can give us your overview on the unimplemented items insofar as PEMC is concerned, and your personal take, since you are one of the pioneers of the JCPC.
Mr. Chair, I'm so sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I forgot in a previous hearing. I think I actually asked Attorney Garcia, and I'd like to follow up for a list of the remaining assets for privatization under PISAM and their estimated value. I think you gave a partial one at some point, but I wanted to follow up because after all, what we're really concerned about is covering the payment for the remaining stranded contract costs and debts of SEC, SD, how much of the Malampayan Fund will we have to stretch for these payments? I think that's what we want to guess, even guesstimate and estimate. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry about that. Mr. Attorney Ala, please.
Thank you. And Attorney Irene, please submit to us the request of Senator Amy.
We will do that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we call on Attorney Ala of PEMC.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, and also to Senator Amy. On the need to for us to comment on the removal of the expiration of the life of the JCPC, we fully support the removal because of the additional oversight jurisdiction that was assigned to the JCPC, which is now the JCEC. But also, there is really a need for continuing legislative oversight over the implementation of the EPIRA and the 6 other legislations that were transferred to the JCEC. Now, as to the remaining implementation provisions of the EPIRA, we, in our comment that we submitted last night, we pointed out the implementation of the WESM Mindanao. As you know, the PEMC created a committee known as the Market Readiness Steering Committee, which monitors the market readiness conditions and issues for the implementation of the not only of the Western Mindanao, but also of the implementation of the enhanced WESM dispatch operations. In our latest meeting at the MRC, we discovered that there are still remaining critical conditions for the go-live of the enhanced WASM design and operations in Luzon and Visayas, and also the WASM in Mindanao. In regard to the WASM Mindanao related issue, there are still there's still a low progress in the registration of Mindanao participants. We discovered that out of the 87 expected participants, only 39 have already applied, signed up for registration. And out of the 39, 19 have fully complied with the registration requirements, while 20 have pending initial prudential requirements and or submission of registration documents. In addition to the registration issue, the following go-live conditions remain to be completed. The market systems audit, which is a requirement of the Energy Regulatory Commission. And number 2, the system operator security assessment. And number 3, the approval by the DOE of proposed amendments to the market rules and manuals, which are already with the DOE and approved by the ERC or by the PMC. Other proposed in addition to the registration issue, there are other local issues that remain to be addressed in Mindanao, and one of these is the collection efficiency issue, which we are asking the DOE to assist us. Basically, those are the conditions, the go-live conditions that remain to be completed, Mr. Chair, in respect to the implementation of the WESM in Mindanao. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Ala. Thank you. Thank you. Again, I won't go into the details of Western Mindanao, but definitely what we want to hear is a broad status of its implementation so that the body will appreciate that the rollout of the market, the nationwide market is still being implemented. We cannot claim that the provision on wholesale electricity spot market in IPIRA is completely satisfied because Mindanao has not yet been implemented, and it's not yet linked to the broader market. So that's an ongoing concern, and we feel that this is one of the most important features of IPIRA, and one of the features that the oversight, the JCEC should look at and make sure that it's properly rolled out. So thank you, Attorney Ala, for that information. So we call on IMAP, which is the operator of the wholesale market, for their comments.
Yes, Mr. Chair, si Sid Cacho po ito. Good morning po, Senator Amy, and good morning po to all our nandito po sa meeting ngayon. No? So apologies po on behalf of President Nethercott, I would like to reiterate our manifestation that we submitted to the JCEC Secretariat. No, nasa kabilang meeting lang po si President Nethercott with our operations group regarding our upcoming limited live dispatch operation sa Western Mindanao at saka po sa dito sa Luzon, Visayas, no. So i-reiterate ko lang po yung aming manifestation. We know po that there are still as mentioned na rin, impending market developments mandated under RA 9136 and RA 9513, which really requires the continuous monitoring and oversight of the JCEC. With the critical role po ng JCEC at yung scale na rin ng Philippine energy industry, we believe po that the JCEC's oversight powers will really be crucial in the realization of the objectives of the laws. So sa IMO po, we are on the position that the removal, the expiration period of the JCEC by amending Section 62 of RA 9136 will really be beneficial po, to all stakeholders at lalo na po sa ating Filipino consumers. Kasi po i-ensure nito na yung mga reforms po na provided ng batas ay talagang ma-establish or makumpleto po natin, So, yan lang po, Mr. Chair, with reiteration lang po ng aming manifestation. Thank you very much po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cacho. We call on NEA, represented by Attorney Rosan Lee.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, Senator Win, as well as Senator Amy Marcos. Good morning also to all the stakeholders in the energy sector. We thank the Senate Committee on Energy for this opportunity of giving us the chance to express our comment on the proposed Senate bill. The importance of the Joint Congressional Energy Commission as the country's primary watchdog in the power sector, with its expanded oversight powers to the entire energy sector, can neither be overemphasized nor understated. For rural electrification in particular, the JCEC has been able to provide ample oversight powers over the implementation of several laws intended to advance and promote rural electrification. With the passage of the seven laws earlier flashed on the screen, especially the Renewable Energy Act, the ESSER, or the Electric Cooperatives Emergency and Resiliency Fund, the Energy Virtual One-Stop Shop, the Anti-Obstruction Law, the continued existence and the total elimination of the expiration period for the existence of the JCEC we can assume that we can be assured that the goals and objectives of these laws will be attained, as it will allow regular review of, and if needed, amendments to not only of the EPIRA but of these laws as well. As the proposed Senate bill seeks to remove the expiration period of the Joint Congressional Energy Commission, which is to expire on 26 June 2021, the NEA recognizes and favors the passage of the proposed bill, as this is in keeping with the objectives of the JCEC to ensure that the aforementioned laws are fully implemented. We are therefore in full support of the passage of the bill. Now, insofar as the agency is concerned on those not yet implemented, we take special consideration on the ESSER, which we thank the Honorable Chair who authored such law. However, even during the deliberation of the enactment of said law, our agency has already had manifested early on that while the initial 750 million was quite a tight budget for all the electric cooperatives, or to tide over the electric cooperatives during times of calamities, it still is a very valuable amount that can help our electric cooperatives. Now, there is likewise the agency's concern when with the passage of EPIRA, while a provision therein has been provided for the release of the national government equity, the same has not yet been released. Oh, I guess it's about 10 billion, but up to present, the national government agency has yet to release it. Insofar as the other legislations relative to the electric cooperatives, we again express our full support and the existence of the JCEC to ensure that these laws are fully implemented, is likewise a welcome legislation, so that the electric cooperatives as well as the member consumer owners can fully benefit to these legislations. The National Electrification Agency as well is extending its gratitude and deep appreciation for the forum that the JCEC provides, especially in matters of the electric cooperatives issues and concerns with CSP, as mentioned earlier, also with outages that concerns transmission and generation, and not just on the distribution side of the electric cooperatives. Again, we are manifesting the agency's full support in the passing of said Senate bill, such that the expiration date for the existence of the JCEC can now be eliminated. Thank you and good morning once again.
Thank you, Attorney. We call on NPC, headed by Attorney Redulme, Melchor Redulme.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. On behalf of our President, Pio Benavides, NPC submits its comment on the proposed removal of the expiration period of the JCE.
Nakasulat doon sa...
We already submitted our comment to the Secretariat, practically stressing our full support to the proposed bill, as we also recognize the need for the continuous monitoring and review of the EPIRA laws and other energy-related laws. With the JCEC continuously monitoring this and reviewing this energy laws, we believe that we can ensure the purpose for which these laws are created will be actually implemented. And we also would like to emphasize that the JCEC has actually provided several guidance on the issues of disputes among the energy stakeholders, and we feel that it's a very safe venue for other energy stakeholders to provide their insights about the issues they're encountering among their contracts. Also on the issue of implementation of energy laws, we defer to our mother agency, the DOE, which provides the guidelines and guidance for us to follow whenever the need for direction is sought by these energy stakeholders. So in short, Mr. Chair, NPC is also supporting the removal of the expiration period for the Joint Congressional Energy Commission. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney. We call on Transco, Attorney Matibag.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. On behalf of Transco, this is Dina Dizon. From the perspective of transmission, given that the transmission business is a natural monopoly, the existence of legislative oversight is very important to supplement and complement the economic regulator and also the executive policy making body. So with this in mind, we manifest our support for the removal of the expiration of the life of JCEC, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dina. We've covered all the government agencies, but later on I'll show in the slides some of the pending items in EPIRA. But before I do that, I want to call on the private sector first, the private stakeholders, so that we will have a full view of the unimplemented items in EPIRA, and also full view of the rationale why we need to extend the to remove the expiry date of the JCEC. Okay. Naguluhan ako kay Attorney Annie because I know she represents PIPA, but here she represents NREB. So I got confused. So which org are you representing, Attorney Annie?
I'm wearing two hats now, sir. So for NREB and for PIPA, sir.
Okay. Well, NREB is first on the list, no? So you can represent and state your position representing NREB.
Okay. Sir, actually, yeah, I can do both naman since we also have members that are a part of renewable energy. But for NREB and for PIPA, we acknowledge that the JCEC is an oversight not only for the EPIRA but for other important laws which were mentioned earlier. So having said that, having an expiration period on the JCEC existence, which is the main law for which is the oversight for the power industry, it's not ideal. We agree what was discussed earlier and other laws that have yet to be implemented and will need direction and oversight from the JCEC, such as, for example, the Mindanao privatization, which includes WESM and RECOA. That's unimplemented. Not yet fully implemented is the RECOA, but the threshold is going down. There are also issues with regard the independent market operator. Does the JCEC consider this implemented? As regards additional markets that need to be developed under the guidance of the JCEC, we have the renewable energy market, reserves market, derivatives market, to continuously ensure that there is competitiveness, and this will result in security and reliability of the grid consistent with the goals of EPIRA. The JCEC is also there as developers to ensure that the generation and the supply sectors are deregulated and competitive. As such, we need the JCEC to ensure that the intent and the mandate of EPIRA is implemented. So this is why we support the removal of the expiration period, sir, of the JCEC.
Thank you, Attorney Annie. And one of the partially implemented items is the on the issue of shareholding disposal of generation companies. That's Section 43 of EPIRA under the powers and functions of ERC. It's not only important looking at the unimplemented items. We also need to look at whether the items in EPIRA are practical and doesn't cause more red tape and confusion, no, and the relevancy of those items. So the item I am pointing out is the public offering requirement for distribution for generation companies. To be honest about it, I find this provision quite irrelevant at this time, especially when GenCos are already fully deregulated, meaning the GenCos are now in the hands of the private sector. And with CSP being implemented, the GenCos are expected to compete, with one another, thereby lowering down the prices. So in my mind, there's some conflict between the public offering and that philosophy of competition. Because as a shareholder of your company, obviously you want higher prices. No? Obviously, the shareholders want bigger revenue. But with CSP, it will drive down your revenue, which is good for the consumer. So there's some form of conflict between the public offering requirement in EPIRA and also the competition requirement of EPIRA. So in fact, we are... Did we file na ba? we are actually filing a bill removing the public offering requirement for all GenCos, no, including RE, no, because and Attorney Jay has stated this many times. Actually, I remember this my first year here in Senate. That what about runoff river? What about small RE generators? Will they be required to go public offering, which is impractical, basically, no? So we filed that bill, and again, no, I say that because that's related to IPIRA. No, so we also have to review some of the provisions, whether the provisions are still relevant at this time. No, maybe during that time when the framers were talking about this, they seem relevant, but at this time, after 30 years, in my view, the public offering requirement for GenCos is no longer relevant. So that's one of the things that we will do in the later on hearings. So with that, Attorney Annie, any more you want to share before Attorney Annie? I think she's hanging. Any concluding statements?
Yeah, none, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we call on Attorney Jay, who's representing Dream.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and all the members of the committee. Good morning po sa inyong lahat. Mr. Chair, we fully support the bill removing the end of term of JCEC 1,000%, Mr. Chair, and we're very happy that JCEC will now be an institution, no, rather than on relying on its term. At the same time, Mr. Chair, in keeping with its name, no, because we know that we expanded JCEC to cover not just the power sector, but also the entire energy industry. I saw the listing of laws earlier, and perhaps you can add in that list, if possible, no, oversight on Presidential Decree number 87, which is the Oil Exploration Development Act of 1972. And Presidential Decree number 972, the Coal Exploration Development Act. JCEC now covers the entire end-to-end energy sector from upstream, no, and then midstream and downstream. No? So that completes those two laws. No, with your oversight, that completes the entire gamut of the energy sector. Particularly since, Mr. Chair, we all know Malampaya will end by 2024. No? I can see my good friend Ernie here, who was part of that institution, no? Is coming to an end. No? Of course, that shows our age. But Mr. Chair, it's a big issue for the energy security and the supply of the country. And I hope, and you've been doing that anyway, no? I hope there's a push to find a replacement for Malampaya, if not a push for more exploration in oil and gas in the Philippines. This industry, unfortunately, has had a lot of challenges for the last few years, no, with the COA ruling, with the Supreme Court ruling on signing by the President himself. No? So we hope that this will also be covered by JCEC. The bill itself is very broad already, no need to amend to cover this. I just hope that you include that in your list. And Mr. Chair, thank you very much for the bill to remove the 15% public listing requirement, no, for renewables. As I earlier in the past had indicated, I think it was an oversight when RE law was passed in 2008. I don't think anyone was looking at that provision in the PIRA in 2001. So the purpose of that law is to expand and widen the base of ownership, and by sheer default of capacities of RE projects, which are very small in nature, no? Usually 50 megawatt solar farms. The biggest, in fact, is only a 150 megawatt wind farm, no? From Ernie also. No? We're hoping that this bill will become law so that it doesn't become any more difficult requirement. And we're hoping also that ERC will lighten up on this particular requirement, because it is required currently under its rules, no, for renewal of COC. So we hope that they can consider this and not enforce it in the meantime as the bill is being deliberated and ultimately passed into law. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you very much for reminding us about that 50% float requirement. That's really impractical, especially for RE, no? Because we all know that RE is quite dispersed. But even with big gencos, I really feel that it's there's conflict between the principle of being a shareholder of a genco and what we want to achieve in terms of lower cost, no? And we'll discuss that in detail once we hear that hearing, or once we hear that bill. But I think these are one of the few provisions that we think that have been has become irrelevant, no, through time. So we'll go deeper into that later on. So we want to call on Ernie for MAP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. MAP fully supports the bill lifting the termination of the JCEC. I think as Attorney Ala is aptly aware, we went through a lot of humps and discussions with the previous JCPC in order to resolve several issues. And only JCEC or JCPC then was able to resolve it now by getting people together and resolving the major issues. So we fully support the bill, Mr. Chair. Just some additional comments. We totally agree with your with you and Attorney Jay on the privatization of 15%. No? If you will recall, during when EPIRA was being crafted, there was no idea on renewables. I think renewables was just something that was being discussed and abroad, but never from the IPPs is because the privatization of 15% through public offering was being imposed on companies that had BOT contracts. And these BOT contracts had a fixed termination date. So how can you have an IPO for a company, public offering for a company that has a fixed expiration date? No? And as you will recall, Mr. Chair, there is only about 2 more years for Pagbilao, Sual, and so forth. So that's why the 15% never became something that could be implemented. But moving forward, we totally agree with Attorney Jay that for renewables, it has become irrelevant. For the big companies or members of PIPA, and Attorney Ann knows this, actually practically all of the big power companies currently operating are publicly owned. So it becomes superfluous to have a privatization requirement. And as you may be aware, and I think Senator Amy had indicated, what is very crucial for private sector is really making our power prices competitive with our ASEAN neighbors. And we are looking forward to the support of JCEC in helping to lower the cost of power in the country. As an example of which is the Murang Kuryente Act, no? Such as what you have done, which is laudable because it has allowed our industries and business sector to be more competitive. So in summary, Mr. Chair, we fully support the bill removing the expiration date of the JCEC because we think they're going to play and continue to play a crucial role moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for inviting us.
Thank you, Ernie, for stating that. And we definitely need the advice of MAP and also Dream on that 50%, 15% float. Again, no, my view is the generation sector has been deregulated, meaning government should, as much as possible, not encroach on the corporate decisions of these companies. And as much as possible, just impose very light regulation. So I think over the past few years, we've seen quite a healthy competition among themselves. So one of the tasks of the JCEC is to review the performance, to review the activities as well as the outcomes of the several provisions of IPIRA. So we'll definitely need your advice on that. We call on Attorney Rivera of Philreca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your joke that I was still in high school during the passage or enactment of IPIRA. The truth of the matter, Mr. Chairman, is that I already possess dual citizenship, the foremost of which is the senior citizen, as a senior citizen. Thank you also to Madam Senator Amy Marcos. I am your kababayan, Madam Senator. I am from Bacaray, Ilocos Norte. I was actually hoping to see you or meet you when I was a guest speaker of the Ilocos Norte during the AGMA of INEP sometime in 2018. In fine, Mr. Chairman, the PhilReca, which represents the 121 electric cooperatives, fully supports the bill that seeks to remove the term limit of the JCEC, which will in effect give rise to the perpetual life of JCEC. Given the intricacies and complexities and the challenges prevailing in the energy sector, the extension of the life, the perpetual existence of the JCEC should come as a matter of course, which really support. As we all know, PhilReca and the 121 electric cooperatives faces a broad range of issues and concerns, the foremost of which is, number one, the threat of privatization within the franchise area of the electric cooperative. Number two is the expiration of the franchise, electric distribution franchise of electric cooperatives. And thirdly is about the budget for the CTO electrification. Because NEA, as well as I was the deputy administrator of NEA, and now the legal counsel of PhilReca, we expect that the total electrification in the countryside will be completed, hopefully, and expectedly within the term of President Duterte, but it looks like that it will take some time to fully implement total electrification. We count on the JCEC as a knight in shining armor to assist the electric cooperatives in times of need. And in this regard, I believe that the JCEC, as well as the Committee on Energy in particular, was not in the fault in helping the electric cooperatives in its objective of total electrification. Napapansin ko, nakangiti si Madam Senator. I am from Bacaray, Ilocos Norte, Madam Senator, magkababayan tayo, but I've yet to see you in person. I went to your office, but I think that we had a meeting, and I was guest speaker of INEC AGMA, some in Bacara as well as in Batak. It was held in Batak. I wanted to see you in the provincial capital, because I believe that you were the governor at the time, but I did not have the occasion to meet you. That's all, Mr. Chair. We PhilReca and the 121 electric cooperatives fully and unconditionally support the bill that seeks to remove the term extension of JCEC, which will in effect provide for a perpetual existence of the JCEC. We thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Rivera. Thank you for that support. At alam ko na yung secret sa inyo. Sasabihin ko parati mukha kayong high schooler nung na-enact yung batas para unconditional yung support.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let me call on NAGMEG, represented by Mr. Alan Laniba.
Yes, sir. Sorry, my camera is not functioning, but I can hear the discussions. For the NAGMEC, we fully support the Senate Bill number 2154, an act removing the expiration period of the Joint Congressional Energy Commission. And thank you, sir. Good morning to all of us.
Thank you for that short, brief, and sweet statement. Let me also call on NGCP, represented by Attorney Concepcion.
Good morning,
NGCP.
Mr. Chair.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Attorney.
Mr. Chair. Good morning to Madam Senator Amy Marcos and our other resource persons. We all know, Mr. Chair, that oversight is an implied in legislative power, and the JCEC exercises this oversight, performs this crucial function in the making sure that the legislative function and the implementation of the laws are complied with. So based on this, we interpose no objection in the removal of the term of the JCEC, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Thank you, Attorney Concepcion, for that statement. We now call on our friends from the Consumer Advocacy Group. We call on Mr. Wilfredo Evangelista of NCECCO. Sir?
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Honorable Senator Win and Senator Amy Marcos, and to all the government officials and participants to this hearing. As organization of the electricity consumers in the country, we support Senate Bill 2154. We believe that JCEC shall continue to exist to oversee the implementation of laws that applies to the power industry with the end in view of protecting the rights and welfare of electricity consumers in the country. As INSECO endeavors to empower the electricity consumers, we also advocate to have a well-informed and educated electricity consumers, and we are hopeful that the issues and concerns of electricity consumers, like to have adequate supply of power from generating companies, and see to it that there is a really competition in the electricity market. And most importantly, Mr. Chair, we are hopeful that the electricity consumer shall be given the lower or affordable price of electricity. We hope that the electricity consumers' problems shall be given adequate solution. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And we call on Mr. Mark Delumen of Meralco.
Good morning, Chairman Gatchalian and Senator Amy Marcos and colleagues in the industry. Meralco fully supports Senate Bill number 2154, which seeks to remove the expiration of the JCEC. We agree with the four observations in relation to the role of the JCEC as discussed in the explanatory note. Much has been said about the crucial role of the JCEC. We also wish to highlight JCEC's role in critical times of imbalances in the grid, where it exercises its scrutiny, investigation, and supervision functions. We respectfully submit that JCEC's oversight function should be without an expiration period, similar to the 10 other congressional oversight committees as we observe in their respective enabling laws. Aside from the JCEC, the only other oversight committee which has an expiration period is the Congressional Oversight Committee on Ease of Doing Business under RA 11032. That's all, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Well, by practice here in Congress and Senate, some of the bills will have its own JCOC, no? The Joint Congressional Oversight Committee, depending on the topic. And what I've observed is those JCOC, those separate JCOCs will have separate members. And we all know that energy somehow is interrelated, no? Whether you're in power, whether you're in energy, whether you're in oil and gas. And aside from that, the learning curve of these technical topics takes time. No? So it's good to have one singular oversight committee for energy so that the members will learn the different facets of energy, will improve the learning curve, and at the same time, cover the different facets of the energy sector. So you're correct, no? That by practice, I've seen this, no? One law will have one oversight committee, will have different members, and but that topic crisscrosses with another topic, and that another topic will have a different oversight and different members. No? So there's no coordination, so to speak. So in that sense, in the Energy Committee, it's different in a sense that we only have one. Actually, we have two. No, the biofuels oversight is different, but that's already been created, so we don't want to touch that anymore. But other laws, we're centralizing it to a singular Joint Oversight Energy Commission. So with that, we've already called on all our resource persons. Unless there are any more, are there any more who want to make any statement or say anything about the topic on hand? Hearing none, I would like to ask Senator Aimee if she has other topics or other questions. Alam niyo, ganyang kasipag ho si Senator Aimee, 2 or 3 hearings in one go. No? So nasa hearing natin siya, but I'm sure nasa isang hearing rin siya. So hindi niya tayo naririnig. No? But diyan kasipag po ang former governor ng Ilocos Norte and senator because she's multitasking right now. So I'd like to express my appreciation for the support that you have given on this topic. And like I said earlier, this is meant to strengthen our institutions. And no better way to strengthen our institution by providing check and balance. And the oversight function of Congress is one of the most important check and balance feature of our system of government. So with that, I don't have any more questions because, like I said, the detail on those unimplemented items will be discussed in a separate hearing. But I would just like to hear from our resource persons their views and as well as some updates on those unimplemented items. So with that, would like to again thank everyone for your participation to this hearing. I would like to remind Attorney Garcia of PSAM on the request of Senator Aimee Marcos on that remaining assets as well as some options on Agus Polangi, and you may submit it to us by next week. No? So with that, I thank Chair Agnes for being with us. You know, one of the things that I noticed about JCEC, no, pag nagpatawag po yung JCEC, sigurado po ako yung mga bossing mag-a-attend, no? And that's also one of the best features of JCEC because in my experience with JCEC since 2016, when JCEC calls for a meeting, the heads, of the agencies are surely there. So, and we get the answers straight from the decision makers. So again, thank you very much for your time. Chair Agnes, thank you very much for your participation. And I thank everyone, Attorney Irene, Attorney Jay, Ernie, Attorney Rivera, of course, the other resource persons here, and Senator Amy, thank you very much for your participation. So we now call this, we now adjourn this meeting, and good morning to everyone.
Thank